So in this video, I'll go over the true history of the Titanic, time traveling again by President Trump, and it's not Baron Trump's big adventure, the true date of discovery of the White House and what kind of condition it was in, the Tower of Babel, again, part 2, as well as Baalbek from Lebanon and the true likely location of it. And I'll show receipts for all of it. Check it out. Let's look at some newspaper articles that don't add up. So if y'all haven't seen my other stuff, this is the Library of Congress website, digital archive, and you can look up just about anything in their repository, all going back to about like 1600. So check it out if you haven't already. But here you'll notice the Titanic sinking. But pay attention to where it says liners take off passengers and ship reportedly being towed.
So this is the ship they say is unsinkable.
It is unsinkable. God himself could not sink this ship. What?
You think the creator couldn't sink the Titanic? Well, who do you put your faith in then?
To check your baggage through the main terminal, it's round that way, sir.
I put my faith in you, good sir. Now kindly see my map.
Oh, yes, sir. It's my pleasure, sir.
At least Titanic was truthful about what putting his faith in that guy would equal for him. Anyway, back to the news article. So the ship's under tow after hitting the iceberg. Wireless brings steamables to the scene and many passengers, notables, are transported elsewhere. These notables included John Jacob Astor and Alfred G. Vanderbilt. But who are these guys? Let's take a look at them. John Jacob Astor, very classy guy, basically responsible for the opium crisis in China. Class act. What about old George Vanderbilt here? I'm sorry, Alfred Vanderbilt. Well, he didn't sell opium to China, but he did die on the Lusitania sinking. And you'll see here his family didn't even want to mention his death on the Lusitania at the funeral. Anyway, you'll notice here, all saved from the Titanic. None perish. And again, all saved from the Titanic after collision. Titanic sinking. No lives lost. Here you'll see that 1,470 passengers taken away from the Titanic without a loss of life. So according to this, not one person perished that day. And we're not just talking one article here. Passengers being transported. And you can look all these up for yourself on the Library of Congress. But let's check out another article from the Library of Congress Digital Archive here. As you'll see above, this is from October 11th, 1897. Now, the first thing I noticed on this was this store for attire. Notice it says cloaks. Wondered about that. And when you look above here, covert and cloaking effects listed under the clothing. So, are any of you guys familiar with this, or can you fill me in? Because it sure sounds like this was some sort of chameleon cloak, but I don't know. Oh, the next thing I noticed was this part here. See, it says President Trump will preside. Awfully specific to be a coincidence, kind of like that Nikola Tesla Baron's Underground Adventure stuff. Now this article here is crazy. This is called The Wonderful Properties of Corn from a thing called Table Talk from New York in 1870. And it's quoting out of this book or study by Dr. Lethesby there. But what did he find out? Maize or Indian corn is one of the most extensively used grains in the world. It has been used greatly since the potato famine, but I want you to read the bottom here. When Dr. Lethesby tested on pigs, strictly cornmeal diet caused scaling upon the hands, great prostration of the vital powers, and death after a year or so with extreme emaciation. The article then goes on to try to disprove Dr. Lethesby, but I've also found this later in the newspaper. If one wants to commit an act of wickedness and hide it effortlessly, put it in the Congressional Globe, which is kind of like the minutes of the Senate or Congress. It's an early governmental document. So this one here from March 29th, 1852. The U.S. government took formal possession of Washington on the capital nation December 13th, 1800, with a population of 286,000. It was then a wilderness. There was good shooting for rabbits and quail within a few hundred yards of the unfinished capital. It then says only the Senate wing was completed at this time, and there were only 111 frame houses in the whole town of Washington, D.C. In a letter written from an early employee, she says none of the White House is finished and she's having to make a room to dry her clothes in. Now check out this one called Tower of the Tongues. I believe it was from 1891. It says, the Tower of Babel in Chaldean and Armenian tradition was known as the story of the Tower of Tongue, and took place in the Tigris-Euphrates basin and was told in the following manner. The first inhabitants on earth, glorifying their own strength and size and despising the gods, undertook to raise a tower that would reach them into the skies. It is now we're in a place where Babylon's ruins lay strewn all over the ground. But using the winds, the gods overthrew the work and contrivers, and the ruins are said to still be around. It tells before this event they all spoke in one tongue, and the place that this occurred still carries the name, which in Hebrew was Babel, St. Louis Republic. So let's see if we can find any locations that are similar or remotely resemble Babel from the St. Louis Republic here. So I've talked about this in other posts, but I just keep finding stuff on it. So check it out. They even kept the St. Louis Babel Ecological Reserve. No picture on Wikipedia, strange. Mount Babel occupies Mount Babel. So when I got on Google Earth, you can see there was cloud cover for the Satelloons this day. But luckily there were some archive pictures, and that's a pretty perfect circle to be an asteroid crater, don't you think? And then how about a little truth in plain sight? There's your Babel built, and then what's that in the background? That mountain there? That looks identical to Mount Babel. What do you know? They're trying to tell us. And Mount Babel would be located right smack in the middle of the crater. And then these are some pictures from Google Earth. Check it out. You can see where the sandstone is strewn about the landscape when this storm catastrophe blew it all over the place. And that last one clearly looks like a piece of the tower fell. And wouldn't you know, they're trying to do it again, and it looks like in the exact same location, because that background looks like Louis Babel. And here you'll see it's in Canada, so probably in the same location. Again, truth in plain sight for us. What are they even doing?
What?
Now, as you'll see, this last one's letters from Jerusalem, Bailback, from the Washington Intelligencer. And here you'll see, looking down from it, he could see the temple of Santa Barbara. So I got on Google Earth and checked out Lebanon and looked for any temples of Santa Barbara. But I did find Santa Barbara Day. But when I type in Santa Barbara Temple, I get all sorts of results. Where? Overlooking the Pacific Ocean and in Southern California, the Santa Barbara we're all familiar with. So seemingly talking about a location over here. Now y'all know I always look at the ruins nearby. This is the Mission Santa Barbara, very close to Bailback as described in this article. And then this is Knapp's Castle, which isn't so impressive, but you can tell it's very, very old, and it's complete stone, so it lends evidence to this being the true location of Lebanon, Bailback. So what we got, the Titanic didn't sink. We've got cloaking outerwear. We have the White House being discovered. We have the Tower of Babel again, and then we have Bailback being located in Southern California, very near to Santa Barbara. What do y'all think?